with Cisco Meraki, based out of Sydney and looking after the whole APJ-C region. Today we're going to talk about one of the Meraki product lines, our security appliance, Meraki MX. And the agenda for today will be as follows. We're going to go through a quick introduction about Meraki business within the Cisco portfolio. And then we will have a look into why actually customers and partners interested in Meraki and reasons of buying actually Meraki products. And then we will do a product demo heavily focused on the MX. And then we'll go through the product families to understand which models we have and kind of like which models will be suitable for which verticals. And then we'll end up with a Q&A session. So as Rajesh mentioned, keep your Q&A session in the panel, and we will answer them while we actually are going through the presentation. So starting with quickly a quick overview about Cisco Meraki. So as you, most of you and all of you know, that we actually been acquired by Cisco almost 5 years ago. At the time that Cisco acquired us, we were $100 million run rate business. This year we managed to hit over $1 billion run rate business. So the Meraki business within Cisco is growing really fast. The reason being a lot of customers start to understand the cloud architecture more, start to see the benefits of the cloud architecture. And of course, from a Meraki side, we heavily utilizing our Cisco channels to be able to reach out to the territories that we couldn't reach out to before the acquisition. As you can see from the left-hand side, we do have 6 products that we sell to the market. We have our access points. We started as a wireless company, and then we expanded to our security, and then our switches, and then we introduced our phones and system manager security camera recently. But the key thing of this here is how we manage all these platforms. Like, you know, the key thing of Meraki is the dashboard. And that's what we will spend time on today, to talk about our dashboard, how you can use it for management, monitoring, and also for configuration. So as I mentioned, you know, with the Cisco portfolio, we actually the fastest growing business, or as Chuck liked to say, kind of like one of the best acquisitions that Cisco ever made. And, you know, recently we reached out over 140,000 unique customers that adopting the new technology and basically utilizing Meraki. Today's session, we're going to heavily talk about the MX. And I guess the MX, a lot of people underestimate it, like, or not really understanding the capabilities of the box. So, you know, if we're looking into any edge device, the kind of like the dream for every IT manager or network administrator is to have this edge device to do security, to do networking, and also to have visibility and application control. So these are the 3 different outside pillars that any you know, network manager or any person in the IT industry expect from an edge device. And normally with the traditional networks, when you talk security, you go with a next generation firewall or a UTM device. You actually need to maybe have like a proxy server, like a 3 or 4 different appliances to basically satisfy your security requirements. And when we talk about networking, you would expect to have a lot of routing capabilities on the box to be able to load share between links or create tunnels over the unsecured links like internet, or actually even do stuff like, you know, fail over to 4G or 3G. And that's from a networking perspective, and normally you would need to have a dedicated device to actually do this job. And of course, you know, without visibility, the solution will be incomplete. So looking into some sort of servers that will do stuff like NetFlow or something like this to capture details from the security appliances and the networking appliances to be able to get like a visibility across what's going on, what kind of application people are using, and how much bandwidth they consume. With the Meraki MX, what we've done, we've combined all these 3 different elements and put it in one box, which is our MX. And that's what we will cover today in our session in more details, and we go to every individual pillar and talk about, you know, how the MX can offer security, networking, and application control. But I guess before we jump into the details, there's always question about why customers choose Cisco MX. Like, what is the thing that attracts our customers to buy our products? So if we look into first thing about, networking in general, you need to have an expertise to go and configure the box. And there is a difference between you understanding the concepts, like, for example, I'm a network admin. I know how firewall works. I know how to put a policy in to block allow traffic. I know what VLAN is. But if I want to go and configure a specific vendor product, I need to learn the language, how to actually configure this kind of like policies on this product. And every vendor has different language, has different command line. So what we've done from a Meraki perspective, we simplified that. As long as you know the concepts, you just go to the dashboard and click and basically apply your policy. So instead of actually putting a load to our partners and our customers to go and learn a specific language to configure a box, we actually simplified that in the dashboard. You click on a feature, straight away we will translate this to the configuration and push it to the devices. So the GUI interface is really powerful and really easy to manage. Again, it's simple, but it's also not compromising the flexibility in terms of what to configure and what to achieve with your policies. It's just we do it in a different way. Scalability is a huge thing because we, as you know, we're cloud-based solution. So everything actually like hosted in the cloud from a monitoring and management perspective. So you do have a box going to the site. This box can be configured and managed from the cloud. And of course, whenever you add more boxes to your network, you expect you have maybe more resources for your monitoring tool. Maybe you add another device to be able to capture the logs or have another box to do the management to the platform. With Meraki, all this is built in our cloud, and we scale it up whenever our customers scale up too. So if you decided tomorrow to go and purchase 1,000 MXs and start to deploy them, our cloud will be able to handle that number of MXs and basically give you the probability of managing, controlling, and monitoring from the dashboard without you worrying about going to your servers and increase your capacities there to be able to accommodate for the growth that you have. And of course, visibility, which is something that really crucial for any business. Whenever you have an edge device, you need to track how much bandwidth you consume, which application is consuming this bandwidth, who actually is using that bandwidth for that specific application, and you start to craft or apply your policies around the information you're gathering. So all these kind of features and more, for sure, that's what we offer to the market, and not just only for our security appliances, that's also across the board. Like if you buy Meraki access points, you can have the same level of visibility, scalability, and easy management that we talked about when we started. And that's the main reason why customers are adopting the Cisco Meraki technology today. I guess, we talked about there's 3 different angles that we're going to take when we talk about our MX. The first one is security. And I guess, from here we start to talk about, okay, if you have a security appliance, what would you expect from that appliance? The first thing, of course, you expect the appliance to be a firewall, a stateful firewall, protect you from any external threats. And, of course, should have an engine to protect you from any viruses, so something like intrusion detection prevention mechanism. A lot of customers, when they have local breakouts, they need to use, this breakout to let their users access the network from. And when you have local access, you need to have policies to be able to restrict what these people should access and what not. And that's where the content filtering piece comes into the game. And more other stuff that we're going to go through when we actually talk about the dashboard, when we actually do the demonstration from the dashboard. But these are the key things that we'd expect from your firewall, is to make sure your network is protected. You do have, the engines that protect you from any viruses or any malwares, as well as, of course, having an automation in terms of updating the signatures or the virus list from time to time. Because if you're going to rely on upgrading patches manually or updating firmwares from time to time, that actually can be tricky because a lot of people don't pay attention about the latest updates. So when you have these updates happening to you, automatically you actually put your network to be like a risk-free, and you don't need to worry about updating these things manually. We take care of that. And all these features are available in our MX. So this is basically the security features that we do have that you can use and utilize and control. And as I mentioned, when we get to the demonstration, you're going to see these things in action and imagine how it will actually work. The one important thing that everyone needs to know and understand here, we as a Cisco company now, we utilize Cisco security portfolio as well. So we integrated with Cisco AMP a year or two ago. And also now we use Cisco Talos, which is the intelligence platform that Cisco have, to look over all the kind of like signatures and malware and the security threats that's actually happening in the market, classify them, and start to action and apply patches to all the Cisco products across the board. This is not just for Cisco Meraki, this is also for Cisco ASA, Cisco AMP, and the rest of the portfolio. So we utilize the same platform. So when you get a Meraki MX box, you're actually getting also the Cisco Talos intelligence because that's what we synced with. And I mentioned we integrated also with Cisco AMP recently. So you will get advantage of number one, malware protection in the industry, where we actually have like over 220 million non-malicious files. And we actually do have like a lookup happening every second. Actually, if you look into the numbers there, like 3.1 billion lookups requests per day. So you're actually connecting to the best in class in the market to protect yourself from any malicious kind of like files or traffic. The other thing here to note is Cisco AMP, it's a cloud service, means you don't need to worry about updating any patches, as I mentioned. So whenever there's a new malware that happened to be detected, you will actually get the latest signature from the AMP cloud to the MX without you touching anything. And that happens to your network automatically. Again, you know, it's a zero touch from our partners and customers' perspective and offer the highest level of security and protection. And recently, we introduced Threat Grid, which is a sandboxing solution that we at Cisco have. Again, you know, you can allow the MX to go and sync with your sandboxing in the cloud or on-prem, depends on which way you will go with the Threat Grid. And then basically, you can send the files automatically from the MX to Threat Grid Cloud, and then it will get analyzed, and then it will be like a pushback from the cloud to say allow or deny. Again, you can do all cloud or on-prem, really up to you. We do support the two flavors. So as you can see, we actually, from a security perspective, we as Meraki, we integrating more and more with Cisco portfolio. Cisco Umbrella is something that we're working on today and will be integrated with them very soon. And other features as well that we integrating with Cisco that we're going to announce in the next couple of months. The second part is in relation to connectivity. So when you have an edge device, you do have an internet service coming in. Of course, you need to secure your internet. But how about routing? Like, what if I have internet and MPLS, or I have two internet links? How can I make some decisions about which link to choose for what traffic? And that's when we start to talk here about the routing capabilities of the box that we have, the MX. So if you look into the MX, it can accept up to 2 WAN links with 3G, 4G as a third backup. So if you do have MPLS and internet, or 2 internet links, or 2 MPLS links, you can connect them directly to the MX, and then you can start to use the smart routing capabilities that we have, like SD-WAN that we're going to cover in a second. But also, you do have an option to plug in a dongle, a USB dongle, to work as a third backup in case the 2 links fail. And for the communication between sites, whenever you have internet and you want to use internet to route your business traffic through, you have to secure your traffic, which means you need to create some sort of tunnels to encrypt the traffic. And using the Meraki site-to-site VPN helps in automate the process of doing like a DMVPN and with way less resources. So when we get to the demo, we will actually go and cover how side-to-side VPN works and how it's actually different than the traditional DMVPN. And then we mentioned, the dynamic routing, or basically intelligent path control. It's known in the industry today as SD-WAN, or software-defined WANs, where basically when you have two links, you definitely don't want to use one link as active and the other one as passive, because it's just waste of money. You already paid for the two links. So what we need to do is load balance between the links. And when we say load balancing, we have three different flavors for that. First, doing blindly load balance based on the bandwidth, maybe 50% of traffic to go through my first WAN and the other 50 to go to the WAN 2. Or I can do policy-based routing by influencing what traffic to go where. So I can go and say, maybe for my voice traffic, I'm going to use my MPLS, but for my YouTube traffic, I'm going to use my internet. And of course, the two links will fail over to each other whenever the link actually fails. But I guess this is not good enough, because the traffic will only fail when the link is down. So what about if the link is actually performing poorly while it's still up? That's not going to help my traffic, because for voice, I don't want to have latency to go beyond a certain limit. And that's where performance-based routing comes into the game. So with performance-based routing, you can actually set thresholds to the box to say, monitor the performance, and whenever we hit the threshold, move the traffic. Don't wait till the link is actually down. And we're going to cover this when we talk about the networking in the dashboard and how these things look like. But from an architecture perspective, if you look into the most popular architectures here, where you're going to have MPLS for your critical traffic, and you have internet for less critical traffic and work as backup, using SD-WAN can help you to do this kind of like smart routing. So you push your critical traffic through the MPLS and less critical traffic to go through internet, and basically fail over whenever something goes wrong. Or when you have actually, maybe you still have dual links, but you need third backup. A lot of customers, they say, sometimes they do have a really critical application in some sites. They cannot afford any downtime, so they use two WAN links from two different providers and the 3G, 4G as a third backup to basically fail over to it whenever the links go down. And then the other option, which is of course the cheapest option, using dual broadband, purely internet network. And again, with this, normally a lot of people will be concerned about performance. However, with SD-WAN, we actually overcome this problem by doing this smart routing. So we're not going to wait to move the traffic from the bad link that we have to the good link just because the link is up. We will actually move the traffic whenever we hit the performance thresholds that you can configure and customize yourselves. We talked about side-to-side VPN. So again, when you do have internet service, you cannot allow your critical or business traffic to go flying through the internet. You have to encrypt it, secure it, and that's where you use side-to-side VPN. But our side-to-side VPN is different than what the market actually offers, because most of the solution in the market, it's either you do static tunneling or you do DMVPN. And with DMVPN, you need to worry about certificates, you need to worry about VPN registry, hubs, public IPs, has to be static, and so on. And even you need to use another layer of routing to be able to kind of like advertise the LAN subnets through your tunnels. So it's a painful process. With Meraki, it's pretty simple. It's just a click on the box. You don't need dynamic routing. We use our own routing protocol, and we'll show you how it actually works. You don't need to have hubs or VPN registries, because the cloud actually is the VPN registry. Every MX box has certificates built in, and we use these public certificates to encrypt the traffic, and that's what we use for the DMVPN. So from your perspective, you don't need to worry about the TA. And then the last piece, the public IPs, you don't need to have static public IPs, because the MXs, they always sync with the cloud. They actually push all the information about MX to the cloud, like the public IPs, the private IPs, and everything. and the VPN registry is actually in the cloud. So whenever IP changes, that will change the registry in the cloud, and that registry will update everyone in the network. So from your perspective, you don't need to worry about all these four elements that normally the four painful elements when you try to encrypt your traffic over the internet. And I guess everyone will be impressed when we do the demo and how easy you can set this up with the Meraki. And what we're actually working on and keep in enhancing and improving, again, simplifying the platform as much as we can. So when you do your policies, you normally go and specify IPs or ports or mix of both, destination, source, ports, IPs. So what we're working on is basically simplify this and basically allow you to go and choose applications instead of working on IPs. We're going to give you the chance to configure the IPs for sure, because I understand sometimes you do have customized applications. But majority of our customers, they use the most popular ones, like Skype for Business or the Cisco Spark or Cisco WebEx, all these kind of things that are popular everywhere. So you're going to actually have them on the list. You go click on the list, and basically you're good to go. You don't need to worry about configuring IPs and ports. So again, we're doing a lot of work to simplify the platform, make it easy for our customers and partners, make it actually more human-friendly, if you like. And the last piece before we jump into the demo that we're going to talk about, the visibility. Like we talk security, we talk routing, and the last piece that everyone in the network industry kind of like asking for or building as a separate platform to get them a good visibility across what's going on in the network. With Meraki, you actually have that built in the product already. You don't need to have a dedicated server for it. You don't need to configure any protocols. Once you get the devices up and running, you actually have that level of visibility straight away from the dashboard. So the first thing that you're going to notice, the client list. We'll get you a list of the clients connected, who they are, what application they use, how much bandwidth they consume per application. And when you go to one application, you'll be able to see the details of the users that are actually using this application. So that level of visibility can help our customers to understand first their traffic patterns and then start to apply policies accordingly. Also, we introducing a URL logging feature, which basically going to capture every website that your user is trying to connect to. Again, this is something that we used to use syslog for, and basically export this information to an external server to allow our customers to capture on their own servers. But then we said, okay, why we're not including it in our dashboard? Because we already know the information. So URL logging is something that we have available in the dashboard that you can just go and see the browse history for a specific user, or you go for a specific website and see how many hits this website actually took from your organization. And we're still, for sure, allowing you to export this information if you like. And then visibility about the performance of your links. Again, a lot of service providers, they don't offer a lot of visibility when it gets to performance of their links. Everyone has SLA and they don't want to actually share, much information. So if you do have like 2% packet drops to your customers, they try to hide that to make sure the customer is not going to come and complain about their performance. With the MX, you can actually go and monitor the performance of your links. And as I mentioned, you can set policies to move the traffic whenever the performance hits the threshold that you actually allocate. And not just this, you can actually go to the reports and look into when the MX made the decision to move the traffic to the other link and why that happened. So in this case that you're looking at here, you see that link latency actually jumped over the 150 millisecond threshold that we set, and that's the reason we moved the traffic to the other link. So it's a really important report that you can utilize and use when you go to your carriers about the performance of your links. And the other thing is the platform is not just for monitoring and looking into, just configuring the devices. That's one part of it. but you can use the dashboard also as your alerting mechanism. So you can set the dashboard to send you alerts whenever something goes wrong, like an access point goes down or a security threat the MX managed to block. You can get notified by an email, like when someone is trying to download a malware file, we can easily get you notified that that user is actually trying to download that file, and we block them, and this is the user details. So the platform is not just for monitoring and for configuring, it's also for management and alerting. I guess, we talked a lot, in the Meraki world, we always like to demo things in like showing the actual product in action than actually showing slides. So I'm going to pause the slides for a bit and basically run you through the dashboard and show you the MX in action and show all the features that we talked about. So as all of you can see, this is just a quick overview of the current active networks that we have worldwide. So all the green dots is basically customers that are using Meraki devices, and each green dot is basically a network that could have hundreds of devices. I'd like to go and actually do a demo for our corporate office because we do have a lot of users. I guess in San Francisco, I think we have over 2,000 users. So you can see here we have over 2,000 users there. So it's a rich network that we can actually go and demo on. So as I mentioned, from the dashboard, you're going to straight away notice the amount of visibility that we have. So I do have 2,000 clients connected to my network in San Francisco. I can go and tell you every individual users, how they connected to my network, who they are, like this is the description that they have on their devices. If we use Active Directory or .1x, you can easily go here and check the username details. We capture that from the Active Directory. And you can customize this report the way you like. So if I want to go here and see, for example, the MAC address or the manufacturer of these devices, and I want to go and maybe move this to be the first, the second in my list there, you can easily go drop and drag these columns. And of course, you can go and download this as an Excel sheet if you want to have this for reporting later. On the top right side there, you will be able to see the applications that the users are using. So here we capture all the applications that people are using and how much bandwidth they consume. And as you can see, we group them based on their category. So I can see a lot of YouTube traffic. It's like 1.2% of our total traffic. It's like 61 gig. And this is something maybe I'm not happy with. So what I can do, I can click on it to see who's using YouTube the most in my organization. So that person, which is a MacBook device, using 10% of our YouTube traffic. How we capture all the users, not just the top users. You can see the list is huge. It can capture the details up to the users that's using only 1 kilobit per second, if you will. So you can see here some users using only 3 meg. But back to the top user, I'm not happy with that person to use that much YouTube. So if I click on that user, I'll be able to see who that person is, how they connected to my network. So this is NIC, and NIC is connected to my wireless access point, 3.65. This is the name of the access point. I can see the physical location. And I can actually look into what other application that user is looking at. So you can tell he's doing a lot of work on YouTube, 62%, 3 hours. And other applications are not that much. And from here, it's great. So we have visibility. We identified the user that using a lot of bandwidth for something maybe not business critical to you. What we can do is maybe apply policy to that user. I'm going to limit your YouTube bandwidth because you need to look into the business critical applications. So as you can see here, we can do like throttle the video, or I can completely block it. Or I can just go and limit the bandwidth. So there's so many options, so many flexibility there. Because we're talking about security today, so we will need to shift to one of our security appliances. So we do have in our San Francisco a security appliance in the data center. So let's have a look on the MX and see how this MX actually, how our MXs work in a live environment. So first thing that you will notice here, we do have a summary report, and actually have a new version that I haven't seen before. So let's click on it and see what's going on there. And this is one of the things you're going to notice when you become a Meraki customer, that we do actually a lot of upgrades and updates that you will wake up in one day and find something like this new summary report that I haven't seen before. So I'm interested to explore that with everyone now. So it actually looks really well organized comparing to the old one. Here it tells me, about the client with high usage. It tells me about the usage over time. So it's a good indication to understand, how much bandwidth we consume across the links we have. The total clients that actually using the most amount of our bandwidth. So that person is using 7% of the total bandwidth. And here, because this is a security appliance, we can actually go and look into the categories that we block. So we're blocking these categories, and as you can see, we can see here the hits that we're blocking. And of course, when we go to the security report, I'll be able to see the users who are responsible for this hits. And this is a really, really useful information when it gets to monitoring your links. It tells you the uptime of your link for the last day or last month, if you like, and then also the performance of the link. So you can actually go to your service provider and tell them you're doing a good job or maybe you're doing a bad job, and you need to look into the performance for the links. But from an appliance perspective, if I go a little bit deeper here to look into the actual box and what we can see on the box itself, I can see that I do have a nice virtual image of the box and the links that connected. So you can see we have 2 WAN links and 1 LAN, which is weird. I'm expecting to have 2 LAN links, but whatever. We have 2 WAN and 1 LAN. And then down there, you can see the network usage. So we do have 2 WAN links. One is heavily used, the other one almost not used. And here it tells you the utilization of your links. It's really good to understand the performance and how much kind of like bandwidth you need to consider for your links. And if I go actually to the uplink, I'll be able to see more detailed kind of like report. Here's the same report talking about the utilization, but here is the most important report, talks about the latency and packet drops. So a lot of times service providers and customers, they experience issues, but they don't know what happened. And they have no visibility during that time what actually happened. So using these reports can help to go and easily find out if you do have a performance issue during that time, or maybe the user had a performance issue on their computer, or maybe the wireless at that time was the problem. So you can go easily navigate through the dashboard and find out straight away what was wrong. So at the beginning of the call, we talked about security. So I want to show you quickly how you can actually utilize our security features, and then talk a little bit about our SD-WAN capability, and then we will finish up with a couple of case studies, and then I will try to pause between the 2 kind of like sections to answer some of the questions that coming through the Q&A. So first of all, as I mentioned, the box can help in terms of protecting your network. So you can actually go and apply your layer 3, layer 4 kind of like rules, similar to any other security appliance. There's nothing really special. But you remember that we talked about how we can go block traffic based on applications. So this is like a predefined access list. If I'm actually not interested in people using peer-to-peer, I can go here easily block whole peer-to-peer application. And this is mainly based on ports and IPs. But what about if I want to go and block certain websites, like category of websites, not just application? Like let's say I want to go and block anything related to peer-to-peer as a website, or anything related to games. So if I want to go here and check the list that we have, so these are the games that we are aware of, and we know their IPs and ports that they use. Stuff like, if you play PlayStation, for example, they connect through a server, and we know the ports and IPs of the server, so we block it. So it's a predefined access list. But how about I want to block anything related to games in terms of URLs. I don't want anyone to access any online URL that actually has games in it. And that's where you can go to content filtering and go and block a specific category. As I mentioned, this is another cloud service that we use. So whenever a new website gets added to the public internet, that will get classified and categorized and then get pushed through the MX to be able to allow or block based on the policy you have here. Again, you can block a whole group and whitelist specific websites within this group or specific patterns. Also, we mentioned that you can use the threat protection features to go and block or basically protect yourself from any viruses or malware. And we use Cisco AMP and SourceFire for this to happen. But it will get a really useful tool or report that you can look at to understand what's going on in your environment from a security perspective. So in this report, you'll be able to see how many hits the MX managed to block and when these hits happened and who were responsible for these hits. So that user, for example, is responsible for 18 events. And if I go a little bit further down, I will see the signatures that we blocked and where this kind of like threats were sourced from. But of course, the most important thing to me is this user, like why this user is having 18 events. Probably I need to go into the details of this user to see what's going on there. So when you click on the user, straight away gets you into the page of that user, who that person is, what else they're doing in your network, and then I can easily go and apply policy to say, I'm going to block you because I need to scan your computer first. So you can apply a policy on a spot like this. So just from a security perspective, like as you can see, you do have a lot of flexibility and simplicity. You configure a feature, you turn it on and off, and then everything will happen at the back end. You don't need to worry about it. And also, you get the visibility piece that we talked about, where you can use the reports to go and look into what's going on there. I guess from a routing perspective, there's two key features that we talked about, and it's really important for everyone to understand how they work. Side-to-side VPN is number one, and using SD-WAN is number two. So starting with side-to-side VPN, if I want to go and enable side-to-side tunnels between any two sites, there's a process to do. Like, you need to know the IPs, you need to have an encryption method, pre-shared key to be able to secure the traffic, and also having running like dynamic routing or static routing to make sure you advertise your LAN on both ends. With Meraki, the concept is pretty simple. I do have two options. Either I have full mesh, basically any MX can establish tunnel with another MX as long as they are part of the same organization, which means they belong to the same customer. Or I can put them in a hub and a spoke. So if I want to have all the traffic to go to my data center or just split tunneling, maybe only private traffic to go to the data center and everything else to go to the internet directly, you can either advertise the default route or not, up to you. And you can have multiple hubs to work as redundancy. So you have one hub number 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and you can add as many as you like. And then the next step is to advertise your LAN subnets. And we don't use any dynamic routing for this, or we don't allow our customers or partners to do this kind of like dynamic routing piece. We just go here and select yes and no to the subnet that you want to advertise, and you're good to go. So this is how easy you can use Meraki to encrypt traffic between your sites. And then, of course, if you do have a site that doesn't have the Meraki MX, let's say a server that hosted in Oracle or somewhere that we don't have virtual MX that you can actually use to be part of the side-to-side VPN, you can do the non-Meraki VPN here. So from here, you can establish a traditional static tunnel going to a specific server. That can be a Cisco ASA, it can be a Palo Alto device or Juniper device. I guess this is from a side-to-side VPN perspective, but we talked about doing SD-WAN and doing smart routing, and I guess this is really, really important these days because a lot of people considering moving away from MPLS and saving some money, but also they don't want to compromise the performance. So, having MPLS, of course, it's great, guaranteed bandwidth, guaranteed SLA, but also comes with cost. And when you move to the internet model, it's cheap, but you have a problem with SLA. So when you actually have two internet links and you load balance between the two, your chances to actually have a bad performance is way lower than having just a single internet link. So as I mentioned, when you enable SD-WAN, you have three options to make this happen. First option is to load balance. So if I actually go here and load balance between the two links, it will load balance based on the bandwidth that we set up here. So this is like 1 gig for WAN 2 and 500 meg for WAN 1. So the way it will work, it's going to blindly do 1:2 ratio. And then the other option is to do policy-based routing by basically defining the subnets and then start to say which WAN link you want this subnet to be routed through. So for this specific destination, we can go and say, I want to use the primary link for this is WAN 1. And here, as I mentioned, you're not doing the load balancing blindly. You start to kind of like influence the packets to say, for this critical application, I want to use my best link I have or my premium service. And for others, I will use the other link. But as we talked, that this is not good enough because the traffic is going to fail to the other link when the physical link goes down. So what we added to this is the performance-based routing, where you can start to set your thresholds here to go and say, maybe for my voice traffic, I don't want latency to go beyond 100 milliseconds and jitter 10 and maybe packet drops 2%. And then what I can do here is start to put this policy together. I will go and say, this is going to be attached to my voice traffic, so it's sourced from any distance to specific subnet. And then basically I start to apply the policy here to say either load balance and use the class that we created, or set a preference, and then when there's a poor performance, use the class that we created. So this is how you can actually do SD-WAN with the Meraki solution by basically doing two steps, having policy-based routing and performance-based routing together working with the customer. And at the bottom here, of course, you can add the traffic shaping rules if you want to have specific application to be limited from a bandwidth perspective, or maybe specific application to take the highest priority when it leaves the MX. And we're not just stopping there. We actually have a really useful reporting when it gets to the visibility piece that we talked about. So first, from a site to site, I can easily go and show you how much data you consume between your sites. And it's really nicely presented through this pie chart here. So if I go here, for example, look into my Sydney traffic to San Francisco, this is how much our data center takes from our head office. And then if I go a little bit further down, here it will tell me when the actual traffic gets moved based on the performance. So you can see here this time, where the traffic gets moved to the WAN link because the performance was bad. And when you click on it, it will get you a good detailed view of the performance, like why we move the traffic and when that happens. So you see here, you have two uplinks, uplink 1 and uplink 2. And here you can see that, comparing to the threshold that we set, the latency was really low. So this is link 2. Link 1 here, the latency was low. But you can see here the jitter hit the threshold, and that's why we moved the traffic across. So this kind of like reports really useful when you troubleshoot or you try to prove to someone that, that's what happened, and this is basically a proof that what happened. And you don't need to go through a lot of hoops troubleshooting things, especially when it's stuff that happened in the past. And the last thing before going back to the presentation is the alerting piece. So I mentioned that, from the dashboard, you can use it as well as your monitoring tool. You can get notified when something actually happens. So I can actually go here and say, if a malware gets blocked, please send me an email. Or if someone actually is trying to configure a rogue DHCP server that's trying to sniff my users' packets, get me notified, and so on. So this is just a quick overview of the Meraki dashboard, how things are organized. This is heavily focused on the MX, but you can tell, from the platform you can manage the other products this exact same way and have the same visibility. So before going to case studies, I guess, we'll pause a little bit for questions and look into what we have there in the chat box so we can actually answer as much as we can. I think there is one question here is about can Meraki support 3 internet links? The answer to this is no. Every Meraki appliance can only support 2 WAN links with third backup as 4G. So if you consider the 4G as a third internet link, then the answer will be yes. But it will only be used when the link is when the primary links fail. A question here about the dashboard is on the cloud and it's multi-tenant. Can we have a client-specific SNMP collector? Yes, so you can definitely get the dashboard to send you the SNMP traps. You just need to make sure you add the Meraki MEB or OID, and basically you will be able to collect all the information from the dashboard. Also, we do have open APIs that you can utilize. So with the open API, you can go and get all the information that you're actually looking to, basically all the information we have in the dashboard, like the reports, you can actually go and collect them and customize them and present them the way you like to your customers or to your management. So I got a question here about the access point, and I will see, the access point question later maybe, because it's this webinar is mainly for the MX. So we'll see if we have time at the end. We can try to cover this question. Okay, I will. Can we get a recorded version of it? I'm not sure if you're talking about this session, but I guess Regis can help with sending the recording after the session. Okay, going back to the slides, and please keep the questions coming. We will try to spare the last 5 minutes for more questions. I would like quickly to go over one of our case studies that we deployed recently, which is our Tea and Coffee Tea series, basically. So they actually, a coffee maker kind of like place like Starbucks and the rest in the US. It's very popular there. They have over 190 locations with 4,000 employees. The solution that we provided to them was basically having MXs in every store to be able to have a secure transaction for their billing system, and using auto VPN to connect to their data center. So, you can imagine having almost 200 sites, and you want to control all of them using, the traditional tools will be a nightmare. While with using Meraki, they managed to get templates, and from the templates, they attach all the 200 sites, and they have like a single policy applied to all of them. And then whenever they want to change something, they go to the template and change the template to get pushed to everyone. So from a management perspective, it was like a huge step forward for the organization to actually free up a lot of IT time to focus on improving the end user experience than just looking into troubleshooting and configuring things. In addition to this, of course, the analytics that we offered from the boxes, because some of our MXs like MX64 and 65, they do have a wireless version, and using the Wi-Fi as well managed to get them some useful analytics around how many users or how many basically customers come to their stores, and how many of them were loyal customers coming back, and how many of those that were actually like a new customers, and how long they spent in their stores. So all this information helped them to analyze their business, and going back to the marketing team, presenting more kind of like advanced analytics that coming from IT, which is something really new to the industry, that you use the IT to be able to give you some smarts around, what's going on from a business perspective. I guess, talking quickly about the models and the licensing, we do have 2 different licenses for the MX, and this is the only product that we do have different licenses for. If you look into the wireless switches or system manager, they all have 1 license for each device, and it's the same license. For MX, we do have two different licenses, Enterprise and Advanced. So with Enterprise, as you can see, you get all the features that we talk about, like the firewalling, using the side-to-side VPN, using the SD-WAN, doing load balancing, and so on. But with the Advanced license, you get the more intelligent kind of like security features like content filtering, Cisco AMP, IDS, IPS, and ThreatGrid. By the way, ThreatGrid will be additional license that you need to purchase from Cisco. So you get from the Advanced license the integration availability, but then you need to purchase ThreatGrid, and again, it's really up to you if you want to go on-prem or cloud-based, and we will integrate with that. So with the Advanced license, you get all the enterprise features plus the ones that we talked about. And I guess, we'll get some questions, why we have two licenses for the MX and why it's different than the rest of the portfolio. The answer is simple. For the right-hand side features, we use actually third parties to deliver the features. Like content filtering, we use Bright Cloud. For Cisco advanced malware protection, we use Cisco AMP for it. Snort, we use it for IPS and IDS. So we have to pay license to these underlying components, and that's why we charge the license as an extra to our customers. And then this is the portfolio. So as you can see, starting from the small appliances that we use for teleworkers, like people that are traveling a lot, they can take this box in their pockets, and basically they will get Wi-Fi access from it. They can do tunneling back to your head office, and they do have 4 LAN ports. There's these 3 that we introduced a month ago, can offer as well 1 Power of Ethernet port. For small branches, we're talking about MX64 and 65s, and I mentioned they do have wireless version. And for the medium branch sites, we have 84s and 100, which is mainly for sites that big enough to handle, they require like 200 users and about up to 500. And then for the campus or large branches, or even for like a data center architecture, you do have either 250 or 450 that we released recently, or the 400, 600 that we had in the past as well. And then we introduced the virtual MXs now in AWS and Azure. So if you want to have the virtual MX, you can easily go and purchase a license. It's only a license from Meraki, and then you can host it on your servers. So just to give you like a quick overview of which one of those are the new products. So we do have the Z3 we introduced recently, 250, 450, and virtual MX. Just to finish up before spending the last 5 minutes to take more questions, as you can see, we're not just having MX as part of our portfolio, it's the full suite. You can have actually all these products to be managed from the same platform. Again, all what you need to do is go to the dashboard, configure things, and that will get translated to code and sent to the devices. So from an IT perspective, you don't need to know how to code these boxes or learn a special code. It's all happening behind the scenes when you use the dashboard. I'll just pause now and take some questions. So going through the list here, so the question that we got asked about the case study, what were the devices used there? So mainly used MX64s in the location, the branches, like in the stores, and for the head offices, they used the bigger boxes there, the MX600s, because they had over 200 sites. The amount of tunnels was beyond 400, so that's why we spec'd up 400. So I got a question about being a deployment engineer, how challenging it will be to deploy to our customers. Actually, it's not challenging from a deployment perspective. Normally, you will need to know or understand how you can go and architect the solution. So that what will normally take most of the time. So as an engineer, I will go to my customers, understand their requirements, and I start to position a solution, And then when it gets to deployment, normally that should be the easiest part, because you know what you want to deliver. Customers normally, when they agree on a solution, they expect that to be done in a short time. And of course, as partner or as a service provider, you actually need to go and deploy the projects as fast as possible so you can move on to the next project. And that can help you also to have a good customer experience. Again, we got these questions a lot about, okay, so if it's that simple, why the customer is not going to do themselves? And also how we as a partner, we actually offer more value. So I guess the designing and architecting phase, which normally is the most expensive from a service provider or a partner to the customer, this is not something we're not touching. And normally customers don't have the skills to architect their own networks. They always have business needs, and they always tell the partner, please convert this business needs to a solution. And when it gets to delivery, you normally use the experts to go and deliver the solution. And again, to get a good customer experience, you don't need to waste time to have like a longer period in terms of deploying. So that's what we actually improve in terms of the efficiency, and that's actually getting a lot of good feedback from customers and partners. We use the MX as a gateway firewall. Yes, you can use the MX as a gateway firewall, and as I mentioned, you do have other features that you can utilize, like SD-WAN on top. The virtual MX on AWS or Azure can be used for client VPN. Answer to this is yes. The virtual MX in Azure and AWS, it's actually, you can only use it in a VPN concentrator mode, and with the VPN concentrator mode, you can actually use the client VPN. Does the MX work in layer 2 or transparent mode? Yes. So you do have two options you can set the MX on, VPN concentrator or layer 2 bridging, which is the transparent mode. And then you do have the other option, which is put it in a net mode or a routed mode, if you like. So the MX can be used as a gateway. There is a question here about the system manager. What is the system manager in the dashboard? So this is another product that we have to manage the endpoints, like mobile phones, laptops, and so on. I guess that's all the questions that I've got. And this is basically all the information that I have for today. Quickly, if you actually want to learn more about Meraki, please utilize the resources that we have. So we do have the meraki.cisco.com/blog. And also we do have a forum that we just introduced recently, around Meraki community. If you do have any questions, general questions about products, you can always post your questions or contact us using the forum. And of course, as a partner, you can always register to be a partner and get access to the portal and some material that can help you to understand more about Meraki. I would like to thank everyone for your time today. I will hand over to Rajesh to sum up and end the call. And again, thanks for being with me for this last hour.
Thank you, Pudi. If you don't mind, we have one question from Narasimhan from Asif. If you can take that up, the Q&A window.
The question in the Q&A? Let me quickly go over it. Okay, can we have MX to connect to non-Meraki firewall for IPsec VPN, like native VPN in AWS? You can actually use, you can do this as long as there's public IP on the virtual MX in the AWS. Yes, that should be available. Sometimes users want to use as a server farm firewall, so how it will update from the cloud if it's used as a server farm. It's a good point. The MXs need to actually talk to the cloud, so we have to get the MX a route to internet for management perspective. So whether you're going to put it inside, you're going to put it in the DMZ, you have to have a route to internet for the MX to work. Last question before we end up the call. I didn't see the new Meraki boxes SKUs Z3 and 250 and 450 CCW. We just released the products, so there's some admin work that's happening at the back end. So hopefully you'll be able to see them very shortly. And if you don't, please reach out to your Cisco account manager, and we will make sure that we get these things sorted. Again, thanks everyone for joining us for the last hour. I hope that was you learned something new about Meraki. Please utilize the online resources whenever it's possible to learn more about Meraki, and we're always here to help. Thanks again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Freddie, and thanks again, everyone, for attending today's session. The recording will be shared to you via email within a few days. Just a quick reminder, once you end the session, a short survey will automatically pop up on your screen. We appreciate if you could spare a minute and fill out this short survey to let us know of your experience. Thanks again and have a good day. Bye, everyone.